Welcome to Creating Connections podcast, episode number 108. I am Mitch Taylor.
I'm Vicki Musney.
And today, oh my gosh, am I excited. We have the pleasure of meeting a man who has inspired both Vicki and I. Well, we're not meeting him, you're meeting him.
You're meeting him. Well, we met him a few months ago, but we get a chance to introduce him to you. So
yes.
Our new friend is a #1 international best-selling author and an award-winning marketer.
This guy has made millions for his clients, and he's worked with Fortune 100 companies such as Apple, Intel, Charles Schwab, and Nestle. We are honored to have on the Creating Connections podcast, Steve Napolitan.
That was nice and easy.
What are you talking about? This also speaks to a much bigger issue.
Providing personal solutions through understanding people. This is the Creating Connections podcast with Gitomer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Musney.
Welcome back to Creating Connections podcast, episode 108. I am Mitch Taylor.
I'm Vicki Musney.
And today we have an amazing guest. Vicki and I had the pleasure of meeting this man at a mastermind conference we did for NSA. And then he was also one of the speakers in the marketing pillar for the conference, for NSA Winter Conference. Steve Napolitan. Did I get that right, Steve?
You did. Well done. Well done.
We practiced. I can say it too, I think. Napolitan.
Beautiful. Thank you
okay,
so
yeah,
much.
we both practiced. From someone whose last name gets mispronounced a lot, it was important to me that we said your name properly on the show.
Did you tell Steve how to pronounce your last name?
I didn't. You're usually the one who makes it your mission to make sure people know how to pronounce my last name properly.
I'll tell you off camera because it's...
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Focus. This is about Steve.
Okay,
Steve, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell just the very, very short story. Who are you and how did you get to be where you are? We read your intro, but how'd you get there?
Well, and first I just want to say I have gratitude. Thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for taking the time to learn my name. That's I appreciate that. And you know how the background is, I mean, in 4 kind of quick chunks is, you know, I went to film school. I got bit by the bug of making movies, like making people laugh, making emotions rise. You know, it just got me really excited. So I went and studied film. And at this time, it was in the 90s, and you couldn't go get a handy cam and a laptop and start making movies, especially with with the group that you're talking to. Yeah. Those of you out there that have production, you know, in the 90s. I mean, I had a 20 gig hard drive that was bigger than, it was the biggest box out of the computer and the edit system. It was, you know, and that was like $3,000. Mm-hmm. So everyone knows on this call. So I had to work. So I basically started to produce things because I had this $2,000 a month lease and a $700 apartment. So I started, crazy, right? And I'm 19 years old and I got a hustle. And at that time I lived in Silicon Valley. And, you know, I just went after big companies and I started doing some production. And one of them said, "Hey, do you do commercials?" And I said, "Sure," because I needed anything. And that led me into marketing because we actually made a commercial. They made more money and they said, "Are you in marketing? Like, what's the deal?" And a light bulb just went off and I started reading everything I could. So I'm a self-taught marketer. I just focus on doing the best job that I could. And fast forward about 10, 12 years, basically all of my 20s, I was building this ad agency. We got to work with Apple, Intel, Charles Schwab, Nestle, lots of other companies in Silicon Valley. And ultimately, during that whole time, I did not have the life that I wanted. The bigger the clients, $1 million campaigns, all of a sudden, you know, you're working more and more. So 2 things happened in transition to now is I got asked to speak because some of the awards we were winning. And in that moment, I didn't even think. I was like, "Are you sure you want me to talk? I'm not a speaker," you know, and I still technically don't think I'm really a speaker. I'm not your traditional sense, like a Toastmaster guy. I just get out there and share from the heart, you know, like I really do. And that speaking engagement, it was in Las Vegas. It was for the Affiliate Marketing Summit. There's 500 people there. And I thought I did a pretty decent job. Like, you know, a lot of people were giving kudos from it. But what changed my life was 6 months later, a woman came up to me at a different event and I didn't know her, and she was crying and she hugged me and I'm like, hello? And she said, you don't know me. And I said, I know. and that moment we backed away and she said, I had to come say thank you because 6 months ago, my husband and I came to Las Vegas and saw you speak. And I said, oh, I remember that. It was my first speaking gig. And she said, what? Like, she was so baffled. And then she paused for a second and then she said, well, my husband and I invested all of our life savings. We retired every penny of our life savings into a business and we were failing. And we went to Las Vegas as a last ditch effort. And what you taught turned our business around. Not only are we surviving, but we're thriving, and you changed our life. And I had to come say hello. And I said, well, thank you so much for telling me. And I still get chills in my body when I share the story. It transitioned my whole life. It's like what I know, I can teach people. And so that's what gets me up every day. And that's what, you know, got me to accept your offer to be on your show. Like, the more people I can impact, the better. So I take all my business systems and marketing systems now, and then I teach life design, because I through this whole process, which I didn't tell you, and I'm trying to keep it really short, is that I my whole life, and I basically now have more time with my family. I have 3 kids than ever before, and I've actually, last year was one of my best years ever, actually the best year ever. So my businesses grew while I was working less. And so so that's what I teach now. How do you do this? How do you have the life you want?
Now, when we first met Steve, we were at a very small mastermind. There were like 8 people in the room, and it was the day before the official conference started. After about 10 minutes in, I looked over at Mitch and said, I got my money's worth already. Everything else from here on out is just a bonus. And Steve, it was something not only about the way you connected with us, and as new people, newer members to the NSA, and new to, you know, this little group, this mastermind group that was gathering, you made us feel very much a part of things, but your ability to explain the techniques that you use to connect. And selfishly, I said to Mitch, I said, let's get him on the show and see if he'll be willing to share about the audio logo, because that's gold. And like, I don't want to share that, like, just because I learned that from Steve, that's not, you know, I didn't feel like we could talk about it on the show without you. So I'm like, this is what our audience needs. We've got event professionals and business owners who are trying to connect not only with clients and selling their client services, but they're also trying to connect with other event pros. Yeah, because in the wedding world, we're always working with other professionals. So how do we truly connect? And that audio logo just was so brilliantly simple. I would love for you to share that with our audience.
Yeah, there it is.
Go ahead.
That's the key word. Well, you know, and you'll know what typically means in a few minutes here. The thing about it is, you know, first, just on connecting, period. I mean, this is all a human experience. I mean, really, I think Tony Robbins, people have said it before, but I know Tony Robbins says this a lot too. He says, you know, if you're in business, you're in the people business. I mean, like, what business out there you're not connecting with people? And there is some technology out there that people think maybe it's not, but somebody is deploying that technology. It ultimately still comes back to a person. And so we have to look at the human experience. And, you know, being a filmmaker, this is how my mind started working. Like, I know that in an experience in a movie, if I was this perfect role model of like life and everything was amazing, and you walk along and, you know, everything's perfect, and then the next scene in the movie, everything's perfect again, and then the next scene in the movie, everything's perfect again, you would turn it off. I mean, it's just the way that we work, you know, and no matter how good life is, I mean, I think life is really good for me. I am like super excited and happy about my life. However, I still have ups and downs. Things happen, you know.
Challenges, struggles.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not being able to hear the people on the podcast that you're working with at the time, you know. So but this happens, right? But we work through it.
Yes.
And this is part of life. And so what what I've got, and through a lot of the teachers that I've had, I've kind of combined ideas and created what I call an audio logo. Instead of having like an elevator pitch, like a lot of people call it, I mean, I guess you could call it that, is what are the 3 components of a message that you want to get out in 30 seconds, 60 seconds at most. And it's 3 parts, and then I'll explain how significant they are. Number 1, who are you working with? And be specific, like who is your wow client? Another thing I teach is not perfect clients, wow clients. When your heart is beating faster, their heart's beating faster. You know, they got in the car and they're like, oh my gosh, I get to work with Steve. You know, like this moment, right? And then you're going home the same. You're like, I can't wait to meet with that client. And I live my life this way. Like there's not a morning that I get up and I think, oh my gosh, I have to meet with this person. And if that does ever happen, then I know that it's over. Then I'm like, you know, this isn't a good fit any longer. And because my filter set is so good at it now, it's rare that that occurs. But I really pay attention to that because, and just because, I'm not going to teach this right now, but I can't help myself, but you just have to know that when you work with wow clients, you're going to get more referrals. You're going to have a better life. You're going to show up on 10 instead of showing up at 3 and saying, oh my God, I got to work with this person.
Right.
You know, and so that lights you up. So when you say typically, and that's what Mitch was bringing up, typically I work with, and the reason we say typically is because you might say, well, I don't want to get too specific. Well, I want you to get really specific and then put the word typically in front of it. And then if somebody shows up and says, hey, I really want to work with you, and they're outside of the specific, then it's okay. You know, you get to choose. Hey, guess what? It's your business.
Yep.
You get to choose. So typically I work with blank. That's the first step. Number 2, what is their pain or challenge? Which I'm going to talk more about in a minute. This is significant. I think this is what it differentiates from a lot of other companies that are teaching people how to do an elevator pitch. Typically they say, typically again, here it is. Typically they say where, who are you working with? And then what is the result that you give? And they don't add the pain or challenge. And I would say it's so critical to get the pain in there. I mean, think about it. If you were at a gas station and you just had someone had a great day and they came and high-fived you, like, best day of my life. Oh, you know, that might make an impact on you for like 5 minutes, and somebody you don't know, right? You're just going to the pump and then someone high-fives you. You know, you might remember them a little bit. That's crazy. Nobody's done that before. But then, you know, what if somebody had a tragedy or something and you're waiting for the ambulance to come, you're holding them in your arms, like that's something that you're going to remember probably for the rest of your life, right? That you were there with that person. And so, and I took it to extreme just so you can let this image come to your head, but it can be in subtler ways as well. And then I'm going to tell you the third part, and then I want to come back to pain because I want to make this point really big. But the third part is then what is the result? And this is key. It's not what you do. It's not like, hey, we are a taxi company and we drive Prius cars and you know, it's not exactly what you do. It's a little bit of the result of what they're going to gain. So I like to say, who is it for? What's their pain and what's their gain? So who, pain, gain. Those are the 3 things. And you want to put this in 2 or 3 sentences. A lot of times the who and the pain you can put into one sentence, and I'll illustrate that how in 1 minute. I just want to share one thing about how critical the pain is. Remember I was talking about the movie where I'm going along and everything's perfect? But how many of you have seen Star Wars, right? I think so many people, that's why I use the analogy because it's like a go-to film. But if you remember when they went to save Princess Leia on the Death Star and, you know, Han Solo and Luke Skywalker go in there to save her. They get into the, yeah, right? You remember.
Of course.
They get in and they go and they grab her and then she's like, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper, right? But it's a happy moment. She's getting saved, right? But all of a sudden, so it's a good moment. And then all of a sudden more stormtroopers come in. They're getting shot at. They're holding against the wall and they're trying to get out. There's no way out. And then Princess Leia shoots the trash chute and then they slide down into trash, which is not as good, but they're alive. So they're like, woo, we made it. All of a sudden, a serpent comes out of nowhere and pulls Luke Skywalker under. He's like, oh, and Han Solo's shooting, boom, boom, boom. And they're trying to get him, and it gets quiet. Luke Skywalker's underwater. Oh no, he might be gone forever. And then he pops back up, And he takes a deep breath, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they're like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. The serpent disappeared. Right at that moment, the walls start coming in. It's a trash compactor. So then they're holding beams and trying to stop it, and they're like about to die, and they're calling C-3PO, turn off all the trash compactors. Right at the last minute, when there's only a hallway of space, even maybe smaller, C-3PO stops the trash compactor, and they're screaming with joy, oh my gosh, we're alive. C-3PO even thinks they're dead because that's how much they're screaming, right? If you remember the scene, but that's less than 5 minutes of the movie. I mean, maybe about 5, but no more than 7 minutes. I haven't timed it out, but up and down, right? And we catch that moment. So we connect on challenges. So when you say typically, like for me, I typically work with C-level executives, entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants who are challenged with having reached success, but not having the life that they want. And they feel alone. They don't know how to get out. And they just work to keep making that same dollar amount or keep that career position that they work so hard to find. And usually I shorten that, but when I'm speaking, I do it a little bit longer. And then I can give you a short version in a second, but then I work with them and teach them business systems and marketing while designing their life so they can have their ideal lifestyle. So now you can see I've illustrated who it's for, what their pain is, and then what they gain. And even though I elaborated a little bit there, it's still less than 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And that's probably the fastest I've ever taught this lesson, by the way.
Yeah, well, we told you our episodes aren't really long. And so we're glad that you're trying to squeeze a lot of content into a short amount of time. And I think, honestly, that's the other reason that we connected so well is the way the messages overlap and the way they mesh. Mitch just wrote a book called Sales for Event Pros, actually just re-released a second edition.
Yep.
And the bottom line is we are here to serve. We're here to find and identify our clients' problems and solve them. And so it's just a different way of expressing the same thing. But I love taking that mindset of solving a problem for someone else, showing them the result that you can help them create, and using that framework for how you introduce yourself. Whether in bringing it to our industry, whether you are at a wedding fair and you're talking to people that come by, or whether you're at a networking event and there's other vendors around, setting yourself up and how you differentiate yourself. There's just so many applications for how you can connect with both your colleagues and your clients using that simple 3-step formula.
It was killer for me. The audio logo was a huge takeaway for me from that NSA mastermind. And the other one I think that was a big takeaway was the surveys and how you specifically survey, Steve.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, because one thing to back this whole bus up for a second is that there's 3 steps to find any client. Is you target your wow client, like we talked about for a second. Then you ask them what they want, and then you tell them they have it. So the audio logo is actually technically the 3rd step, in my opinion, but it gets you excited. Well, no, and it works. Yeah. I mean, now you know this. So now how do you find out what words to put in there? Right? Like I say, I work with executives and entrepreneurs that feel alone. That came directly from them because they said, hey, I don't want to look to my board or my investors and look weak. I don't want my employees to think that I don't know what I'm doing. And in there, you look in the mirror and say, can I do this? And they're alone. And so having that somebody in their world makes a big difference. And if I would have said, oh, they feel like they're by themselves, or I come up with some other word, it wouldn't have resonated as much. It was alone came up over and over in the survey. And so surveys are huge for me. I use them all the time. And some of you might be doing exit surveys like, hey, after the wedding or whatever you're doing, hey, how did we do? And what typically happens is you have like a 1 to 10 and they're checking out what's going on. Oh, did I get an 8 or a 10? And that gives you a little bit of information, but what's most important is actually what they say. So we have to use open-ended questions. And the best way to illustrate this is to tell you a quick story. I was working with a chiropractor and he he was doing really well, but he wanted to do even better. And so he brought me in, and I said, hey, what's the greatest value that your patients receive? And he said, pain relief, hands down. I have grandparents that couldn't even pick up their grandchild, and I've helped them with their back so they could do so and embrace their family with love. And it's amazing. And I'm like, wow, he was so passionate about it. I'm like, is it okay if I survey your patients? I told him the importance of it. Fast forward, you'll never guess. And because of the brief time we have together this morning, I'm going to tell you, it was on-time appointments. Pain relief came up, but on-time appointments came up over and over. And think about it, how many of us have gone to the doctor and waited 40 minutes?
Yeah,
and then
my average wait time at my chiropractic office is 27 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, maybe we should have a talk with him, huh? Yeah.
Totally.
Let them know a new system. Yeah, and it may be in different areas, maybe it's more important. You know, I think more and more of America is on a time thing. I mean, if you look at so many marketing things, time is a factor. I mean, even look at Domino's at one point, if everyone remembers, they skyrocketed over other pizzas, and it wasn't because of the taste of their pizza. No. It was because they did 30 minutes or less, and it's free, right? You know, there's a lot of time-based marketing out there. Well, we hadn't had any chiropractors do that, and because he had so many people that said, you know, on-time appointments are so important, I went back to the doctor, and I said, hey, this is what came. He's like, I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked because I hate waiting. So he ran as tight of a ship as he could. It was about 65% on-time appointments, which was pretty dang good for a doctor. I said, what if we go 95, 100%? And we kept surveying. So when they booked an appointment, let's say a client booked an appointment at 9:30 next Tuesday, then the receptionist said, what if you could see the doctor right at 9:30? And everyone said, that would be great, absolutely. And they said, okay, well, we just need one thing from you. And the patients would be like, what's that? We need you to be on time. Right? It's a two-way thing. Yeah, be there at 9:30. And we have a rule, if you accept 5 minutes, if you're 5 minutes more than 5 minutes late, your appointment is canceled. If you know you're going to be more than 5 minutes late, call ahead, let us know, we'll move you. We're going to keep a little bit of time every day to have some flexibility. And that was one of the rules that we created. And is that okay with you? So that's still surveying. And they said yes. And we got overwhelming yes. And the funny thing is he got an increase in business even before we launched the marketing, because people are already sharing because of the survey experience. People were like, oh my gosh, guess what my chiropractor's doing? On-time appointments. It'd be like me talking to Vicky today. I'd be like, well, you know what? The other guy's on time, you know, and I'm going to check him out. And then we did billboards, on-time appointments. When you picked up the phone, it was home of the on-time appointment. It became a part of his brand. It was huge. And he ended up.
But it's totally not what in his head he thought he was known for and what he was providing.
Absolutely, because pain relief is his game, and it still has to be.
And that's still important, but if I can get my pain relief on time, that's even better.
That's it. I mean, think about it. If he was a chiropractor and no pain relief occurred, you wouldn't care how on time they are. Yeah. But so he still had to come through with his main thing. But this is key. What the clients want is different than what you perceive that they need. And as experts, we know we need to fulfill this need, but we have to find out what they want. We have to meet them where they are. And a lot of times, I would say close to 70% of the time with my clients, we find that what they thought was attracting their clients was not accurate. And it didn't mean that they had to change what they're fulfilling. They're still doing a damn good job of that, but they have to be able to know what is going to get them in the door. And that comes from their words, not ours. You know, and as an ad agency owner, I had to recreate my creativity because we get so creative trying to figure out the best jingle or the best tagline. And
or the word that rhymes with.
Yeah. And it didn't work. And then as soon as I took surveys, took the words right out of the client's mouth, put it in the ads, millions and millions, literally, of increased revenue for my clients. Millions.
Just from listening.
Right? Yeah. Like I took one client from. So I was. Go ahead.
And asking open-ended questions, right?
Asking the right questions and listening to the answer.
It's huge. I'll tell you quickly the 5 things that you need to do. Number 1, you need to not call it a survey. People are tired of surveys. It's just, you know, we think we're going to be taking up a lot of our time. So you want to just say something simply like, hey, do you have 5 minutes to answer 5 questions? Or 3 minutes to answer 3 questions, something along those lines, and simple. Number 2, you want to keep it short. So you get that. So don't call it a survey, keep it short. Third thing is open-ended questions. Think about that chiropractor. If he would have said on a 1 to 10, what was your pain relief? He wouldn't have found out that on-time appointments were the number 1 part of the game to get them in. And then the 4th thing that you do is you keep it single. Each question singular, and what that means is what's the greatest value, not what's all the value you receive from me, and then they're giving you a list of stuff. Now you're not keeping your promise of short. And a lot of times when you ask someone, hey, what do you like about me? They're like, because it's too much to go in their head. But if you say, what's been the greatest value of working with me? They can usually pick off that one thing. What's the number 1 thing that's challenging you right now, right? That's going to be huge. So it's number 1. What's the greatest? What's the biggest? What's one thing that I can do to improve or add to my service that will make this better, a better experience? That's the singular part. And so those are the 4 main things. The 5th thing that I like to say is give a gift. Getting these surveys is so important. If you can give something away, like I've even told people to turn off all their marketing. Let's say you only had budget for whatever you're spending, turn it all off for 1 month and use all that money to give gifts away for all the surveys that you get back. And then turn the marketing back on the next month with the new words that you got from your survey. Yes. You're going to far better exceed what you've been doing. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's huge.
Speaking of gifts.
Yeah.
Is this the time?
I have one.
You have a gift for our audience, I've heard.
Yes. I absolutely do, and it's one of the ones that are my favorite. I survey my clients all the time, and I said, what's the greatest value that they give? They said survey to success, and that's what we call it. It's a PDF document that gives you step-by-steps, and even gives you questions that you can use and model of what I've done. Literally, I've had people in less than 15 minutes turn out a survey and get it out to their people. I've had businesses come back and make like $5,000 off surveying. Because the other thing we didn't say is when you start surveying your past clients, your current clients, guess what? They start buying more from you. They see how much you care. They refer you more. So I've had clients that have been given referrals and everything just because, or they said, you know what, I was meaning to call you. It's so perfect that you asked me for a survey. All of these things start to happen. So what I'm going to do is gratitude is huge. My tagline is choose gratitude and create freedom. And so what I want you to do is you can text message in the word gratitude to 72,000. That's 72000, 72,000. Make sure it's 1,000, not hundreds. 72,000. And put gratitude. And then you're going to receive a few prompts, and then we'll quickly send you the survey to success, and you can get out there and do this. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great content today from Steve Napolitan. This is amazing. And you have a book.
Much.
We want to hit the book too. Steve has a book, Capture Clients, Close Deals. And
it's a simple way to gain clients without convincing or chasing. When you do these techniques, you don't have to be chasing clients. You don't have to.
Yeah.
We'll
put a link in our show notes as well.
Absolutely.
To the book.
Oh, beautiful.
Steve, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, and I look forward to continue to serve many of you. So stay in touch, and it's easy to find me on social media, just stevenapolitan.com, and we're pretty active. So, we like to hear questions or other things we can do to serve.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Greatly appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
That was Steve Napolitan. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. You want to talk about dropping some knowledge here super quick in a very short amount of time.
Long for us, but really short in general.
Yeah, for him. I mean, he covered like almost our whole masterminds. Maybe not the whole.
I didn't want to cut him off, but
No. Text 72,000, the word gratitude. Excuse me. Text the word gratitude to 72,000 if you want to pick up the survey PDF you just spoke about. Survey to Success PDF. So text 72,000, text the word gratitude to 72,000 to get that PDF. This is Creating Connections Podcast. I am Mitch Taylor.
I'm Vicki Musney.
We provide personal solutions through understanding people better. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Creating Connections Podcast with Gittimer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Musney. For more information on providing personal solutions through understanding people better, visit creatingconnections.biz.